Hey, what's up guys? It's Bert here from Meta Gaming. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas and I hope you guys are enjoying your holiday season with New Year's approaching us. This is the Power Reaper build that I've been using a lot in general PvE. I actually have a raid version of this build, but I'm going to do a separate build video just for that. That way when we go through the traits and the gear and stuff, I don't have to constantly say, well, if you're going to raid, you can do this. I just feel like it's going to be a better thing to release another video just covering raid only. Okay, so this is general PvE, so dungeons, meta events, whatever you're doing in PvE. This is probably the best you're going to get. So this is a build that is going to supply you an extremely high amount of power damage, and interestingly enough, it's going to provide you a lot of survivability because we'll have to go through it later, but because of our gear, we don't really need precision in this build. We can supplement that with our traits. Because this build applies a ton of chill, and a lot of the chill that we apply also applies vulnerability. And we also have things that just strictly apply vulnerability without the chill. And the vulnerability is going to give us more crit chance, and I'll show that to you later in the traits. And we're also going to get a lot of might while we are in our Reaper Shroud. This build is focused around Greatsword, and it's also focused around Dagger and Warhorn. Warhorn's going to give us a lot of life force gain, and the Dagger auto attack actually gives us the most raw DPS in both of these weapon sets. Okay, so let's go through our gear. For our gear, we have Valkyries on. That's Power, Vitality, Ferocity, Power being the main stat. And like you can see, we don't need any precision in our gear. I do have some precision in my trinkets, my accessories and rings and amulet and whatever, but you really don't need it. I like having that little bit of extra precision. So there's Power, Vitality, Ferocity, and then for the runes, I'm using Rune of the Ogre. You can also use Rune of Strength or Rune of Rage. Rune of Rage would be really good if you have people in your group that are supplying you a lot of might. That might be a little more for the raid build. But Rune of Ogre is a really cheap option to get a lot more damage in your builds. For our weapons, Dagger Warhorn, we're using Sigil of Force. Both Valkyries, Sigil of Force, and we're using Sigil of Air. And for our Greatsword, I have Berserkers on because that's the stats I chose when I got the Greatsword. But this is also Sigil of Force, that's plus 5% damage, that's straight up plus 5% damage. And Superior Sigil of Air causes a lightning strike on a critical chance, 50% chance in a critical hit. For my trinkets, for my rings, I am using pretty much Berserkers, Power, Precision, Vitality, Ferocity. If you do want more defense, you could go for the Valkyries option, which I have on my amulet, which is Power, Toughness, Ferocity. They do change up the stats a bit. You get Toughness rather than Vitality. Vitality is actually a lot more important to a Reaper over Toughness. I'm a little disappointed that when you go to get your Ascended amulet or your accessories that they changed the stats on Valkyries. I would kind of wish they would have kept it the way the exotic gear is here, Power, Vitality, Ferocity. But on my accessories as well, I have Berserker, Power, Precision, Vitality, Ferocity. So that's the gear. For our traits, we have Spite, Blood Magic, and Reaper. In Spite, we have Reaper's Might. Shroud skill 1 grants Might. So every time you auto attack while you're in your Reaper Shroud, you are going to be applying 1 stack of Might to you. And that will apply to something else later. Bitter Chill, chilling a foe inflicts vulnerability. We have a lot of chill in this build, so every single time we apply a chill to a target, they are going to be experiencing 3 stacks of vulnerability for 8 seconds. Then we have Death's Embrace, inflict vulnerability when you strike a foe below the health threshold and deal more damage while downed. Rending Shroud, constantly apply vulnerability to nearby foes while in Shroud. So whenever we are in our Reaper Shroud, every 3 seconds we will be applying 3 stacks of vulnerability. Then we have Siphon Power, gain Might when you strike a foe below the health threshold, which is 50%. We gain 2 stacks of Might. And Close to Death, increases damage to enemies below the health threshold. When they are below 50% health, then we will have a 20% damage increase, which will actually apply to one of our skills in our Greatsword. Next is Blood Magic. We have Mark of Evasion, leave a mark of blood when you dodge. Then we have Ritual of Life, create a well of blood when reviving an ally, revive speed is increased. And Vampiric, siphon health whenever you hit a foe. Minions siphon health and transfer it to you. So this is a good way for us to gain more health while we have our minions out. And it also helps our minions do even more damage. And Vampiric Presence, you and your nearby allies siphon health with your attacks. That is a heal, and it's also a damage. So our minions and our allies around us will be doing a little bit more damage. Then we have Last Rites. As long as you are not downed, allies near you do not bleed out if they are downed. Gain healing power based on your current health. So if we have a couple of allies downed around us, they're not actually going to be losing any health while they're in the down mode. And this applies to another trait later that I'll talk about. But we also gain healing power depending on how much health we have. The lower health we have, the more healing power we get. Then we have Transfusion. Shroud skill 4 heals and partially revives nearby allies. Up to 5 downed allies near you teleport to your location while you're channeling Shroud skill 4. So if you do have allies around you that are downed, you will teleport them to you, and your number 4 in your Shroud skill number 4, will be healing everybody around you. So you'll also be healing them while they're downed. And this really applies a lot of durability to our minions as well. So if we're running around solo and we just have our minions, when you use your number 4 in your Reaper Shroud, you're going to be healing your minions, and that will keep them up, also increasing your survivability. Then we have Reaper. We have Shroud Knight. Death Shroud is replaced with Reaper Shroud, which has more melee-oriented skills. Chilling Nova. Critical hits against chilled foes cause an explosion that chills adjacent foes. And remember, every time we apply chill, we're also applying vulnerability. So that's a great way to apply vulnerability to a lot of people around us. And then we have Shivers of Dread. Whenever you inflict fear, you also chill. We do have fear. Our Reaper Shroud number 3 is a fear, so we will also apply chill and vulnerability. Decimate Defenses. This is, in my notes when I was going through this build, this is actually the one that I had underlines like 10 times, because this is the most important trait to our build. Letting us go Valkyries rather than Berserkers, giving us a ton more survivability and defense, because whenever you strike a foe with vulnerability, it increases your critical hit chance by 2%, and that's 2% per stack. And we apply a lot of vulnerability through our skills and through chilling people, which will apply more vulnerability. If a target has 25 stacks of vulnerability on it, we have automatic 50% crit chance on that target. So we can get rid of precision in our builds, supplement it for vitality and toughness, and really bolster up the durability and survivability of our builds because of this trait. Now we have Cold Shoulder. Chills last longer, and chilled foes deal less damage to you. So that's a 10% damage reduction on anybody that has chill on them, which chill alone grants us survivability because they're going to be attacking a lot slower and their skill recharge rate is a lot slower. But we're also giving them a 10% damage reduction towards us. The last one is Reaper's Onslaught. Attack faster while in Reaper's Shroud. Killing a foe while in Shroud reduces recharge of all Shroud skills. So if we're in general PvE, we're going to be killing a lot of monsters, a lot of mobs. So our skills in our Reaper's Shroud are going to be constantly reduced to where we can use them again. So the recharge time reduced is 5 seconds every time we kill a foe. So if you're fighting 20 little things, then you're going to have access to your Reaper Shroud skills right away. Okay, so those are our traits. So let's go through a few of our skills. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll just tell you a few combos that you can use in your skills. We have let's go through our utilities first. In general PvE, I like to use minions. I use the Blood Fiend, which will heal us every time it hits, and I also use the Bone Minions. When you explode the Bone Minion, it does 1500 or about 1600 damage. I don't find that to be a huge deal. I usually just leave them out. I don't usually explode them. Then we have the Bone Fiend, which is a ranged attack minion, and it does 572 damage times 2. And for our last minion, we have the Elite. We have the Flesh Golem, and this Flesh Golem is just a beast. It'll do a lot of damage to anybody. And the last one, we are using Well of Suffering. Target area pulses, damaging foes, and inflicting vulnerability. It does a lot of damage when you put it down. And it also applies 2 stacks of vulnerability every pulse, which is every 1 second. So we're going to be applying a lot of vulnerability to enemies, which increases our critical chance, which also increases our damage overall. Okay, for our Greatsword, we have Dust Strike, cleave foes in front of you. You gain life force and do damage. Fading Twilight, cleave foes in front of you again, doing more damage and also gaining life force. And then Chilling Scythe, strike foes and chill them, doing even more damage, applying chill and applying vulnerability as we get 3% life force when we do that. Now we have our Gravedigger. This is kind of the bread and butter of the Greatsword. Perform a huge swing that deals heavy damage. Recharges faster if it hits a downed or low health foe. So the health threshold is 50%, and if you remember our traits, a lot of our traits are affected when a person is below 50% health. This does a ton of damage, and if we hit them below 50% health, the recharge is reduced by 100%, so we can use it again right away. So it's a huge hitting ability. If we're hitting a low health enemy, we can just use it over and over again and do a ton of damage. Then we have our Death Spiral. Conjure a drill of dark energy on your blade and rend the armor of foes in front of you. So this will do 888 damage times 6, and it'll also apply 12 stacks of vulnerability. That gives us 24% crit chance alone on this when we use this ability. And it also gives us 2% life force. Nightfall, call down a growing column of shadows that damages and conditions every pulse. This gives blindness and cripple. This is also a dark combo field, so if we use the Nightfall, we have Gravedigger, which is a whirl, and that will give us Leeching Bolts, which will give us even more healing and more survivability. So that's a good combo to use. Usually if you're using the Greatsword, you would use your number 4, your Nightfall, then you would use your Gravedigger, which is a great starting combo. And then Grasping Darkness, which is a CC. Conjure Claws of Darkness from the shadows to attack foes. Applying a condition to them and pulling them to you. Gain life force for each struck foe. So this does 985 damage. It applies 4 3/4 seconds of chilled, which will also give us 3 stacks of vulnerability. And it will give us 4% life force for each target that is hit. Then for our daggers auto attack is probably it is the most damage that we can do in this build. So when you are auto attacking, you want to be in your dagger set and auto attacking with that. You can read that by yourself. You do get life force gain from it and just a lot of damage. Then you have Life Siphon, siphon health from your foe, which does a decent amount of damage. It does it a little bit slower. So for DPS purposes, it's probably not a priority skill that you want to use, but if you're getting lower on health, you can back up a little bit and use your Life Siphon and just get a little bit more healing. Then Dark Pact, immobilize your foe, also doing a little bit of damage. And Wail of Doom, screech a Wail of Doom in a cone pattern, dazing foes for 2 seconds, up to 5 targets. And then we have Locust Swarm, gain swiftness, and summon a swarm of locusts that cripple nearby foes, and we also gain life force when this hits enemies as well, 1.5% life force. So this is a great thing to use to really bolster up your life force, so you can go to Reaper Shroud sooner. Okay, so I'm going to go into Reaper Shroud, but because it's on a time limit, I'm going to pause the video and take a few screenshots and then explain each skill to you. Okay, for our Reaper Shroud, skill number 1 is Life Rend. Cleave foes in front of you. This skill inherits traits from Life Blast. So we are gaining 15 seconds, 1 stack of might for 15 seconds. Then we are using Life Slash, cleave foes in front of you again. This skill inherits traits from Life Blast. Also gaining another stack of might for 15 seconds. And then Life Reap, cleave foes around you, gaining life force for each foe struck. This skill also inherits traits from Life Blast. So we get another stack of might for 15 seconds. Then we have our Shroud skill number 2, which is Death Charge. Slide forward, destroying projectiles in your path. Blind foes at your destination. This skill inherits traits from Dark Path. So this skill does a lot of damage. It has a target number of targets up to 5. It's also it has a blast radius, and it's a leap combo finisher. Then our number 3 is Infusing Terror. Shroud yourself with dark armor that grants stability, and every second you may shatter this armor to fear foes around you. So you use the armor, you gain stability for 8 seconds, then you can use it again to apply fear. And when we apply fear, we apply chill, and then when we apply chill, we also apply vulnerability. Then we have our number 4 ability in Reaper's Shroud, which is Soul Spiral. Spin and damage nearby foes, applying a condition each strike. This skill inherits traits from Life Transfer. Okay, so we are doing, basically this is where we spin around, our number 4. We're also doing healing. This is where we are going to be healing our minions. So this is an important skill to have to keep your minions up so they're doing more damage and doing more life transfer to you. And we are also applying poison as well. And then we have our number 5, which is Executioner's Scythe. Deliver a powerful overhand strike to stun a single target. It deals more damage the lower health the target is. And it leaves behind a field of ice. So we're going to be applying Chilled, which will also be applying Vulnerability. It has a 1-second stun for a duration of 5 seconds. That's the ice field. And it does a lot of damage as well. And remember, every time we stack Vulnerability, we are also improving our critical strike chance. Okay guys, let's finish off this video with a simple DPS rotation that I use. Remember that Guild Wars 2 is unlike some other MMOs where you are in this set DPS rotation. There are variables and certain things that happen in combat where you have to mix it up a little bit. But I'll show you what I generally do when I start a fight. Usually I will start with my Well of Suffering, which will apply the vulnerability and also do a bunch of damage. And I'll usually run around with my Greatsword as well because I can do the combo with my Greatsword. So let's see here. We'll put down our Well of Suffering on him, apply the vulnerability. I'll use my number 4, my Nightfall. Then I'll also use my Gravedigger. Then I can use my Death Spiral to apply the vulnerability. I'll go into Death Shroud. I'll use my number 2, which is my Death Charge, which will do a bunch of damage. Then I can throw down my Executioner's Scythe for the chill. And you can see the vulnerability on the target, and I'll use my number 4, my Soul Spiral. I could also use my Death Charge again. You can see my Might is stacking up really high. Even if I auto attack, I'm stacking up Might. I could go out of Reaper's Shroud, and then I will switch to my daggers. I'll usually throw on my Locust Swarm, so I can get more life force, and then I'll start auto attacking with my dagger. And then you just do this for a little while, throw down your Well again. Switch back to your Greatsword. You can use your number 4, your Nightfall, then your Gravedigger again. And then kind of go back to what you're doing, back to your Death Shroud. Use your number 2, which is your Death Charge. Throw down your Executioner's Scythe, and then throw down your Soul Spiral as well. So we're going to be applying a ton of vulnerability to him. Get out of that, go back to your Dagger, do your Dagger auto attack, throw on your Locust Swarm if you can. And you kind of do that over and over again. That's usually kind of my general DPS rotation. Again, sometimes things change in combat, but that's usually what I would do. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a little bit. This is the Reaper build that I've been using in general PvE whenever I do anything. I will release soon the raid build version of this. It's a little bit different. The utilities change a little bit. We focus more on wells, and some of the traits change as well. There's not a huge difference, but I feel like it deserves another video. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy your holidays, and see you next time.